Hey, everybody, it's your boy, Darrell Owens, and we are here for episode 108 of 101 here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. And that means it's week 4 of the NFL season. We got Packers versus Lions tonight, Thursday night football. We'll get into that a little bit later. We'll give you a prediction on where I think that's going to go. You probably already know, but we got that going down tonight. Also, got a shift in the power rankings at the top spot. We'll get into that today. Also, some teams in the bottom making some moves, some teams in the inside out going back down and moving all around. We got a lot to get into. It's 1-on-1, the NFL Power Rankings, Week 4, here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network, and of course, airing on Bowie Television. Let's get this bad boy started. One, 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 one. Welcome to the 101. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to the 101. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the proof. Welcome to 1-on-1 at Legacy Maker Sports Network. Here. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are here for another edition of 1-on-1 here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Very excited as we get into week 4 of the power rankings. We got a new team at the top, and it's probably well-deserved. I'll have some people that give me some grief over that. The outside looking in, it switched up a little bit. The bottom has a new team at the bottom, and well-deserved team at the bottom. No hate. Promise, but it's going to be a fun week, and a lot of the teams that we had in the top 10 last week found themselves in the in the outside looking in this week. Some of it was a little rough for those teams, but we're going to get into all that today. We got Packers and Lions tonight from Lambeau Field, and if you want to just get a little bit more in depth with that, you can check out Green and Gold over everything with yours truly. And you can get a little bit more in depth with that. And then my man Randall Burns was on as well as Victor Herrera from the Legacy Maker Sports Network, where we previewed tonight's game. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get into it. Let's go ahead and smack them real quick with the bottom. All right, so the bottom teams heading into week 4, this is where they stand. At number 32, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is an easy one. The Chicago Bears. 31 could make a case for it, but the Chicago Bears come in at the bottom spot. It has been a really rough go for the Chicago Bears. A lot of expectations for Justin Fields and that team, and it just hasn't went that way. There are a lot of people thought they would go into that first week and beat the Packers. There were a lot of people were high on that expectation. They seemed like they could have been the overall better team. They had the more experienced quarterback. That didn't work out. Then the Bears took on a Bucs team. That game was a little bit closer, but still a 27-17 win for not the Bears. I was about to say for the Bears. The Bears wish they had a win, but the 27-17 win for the Buccaneers. And then last week was rough. Last week was real rough. We saw the Chiefs break open a very ugly lead over the Chicago Bears. And then Chicago scored their 10 points all in the fourth quarter, but it was a really rough go for Chicago. For a while, I was going to give them the edge of being the second worst team, maybe the third worst team in the league. But they are clearly the worst team, and they're dysfunctional. We had to get that FBI rating, supposedly was rating the facility. We don't know how true that was. I've heard multiple different stories on that. Just a whole bunch going on with the Chicago Bears. Fields came out and said some things about some coaching. It's just not looking good in Chicago. They're at 32. At 31, another team that I had a chance to see the week before last in Denver. the Denver Broncos. Now, I was at that game when they took on the Commanders and they lost 35-33. So I was like, okay, they battled, and it'll get better. Well, it didn't get better. They got demolished by the Miami Dolphins, who just are just dangerous. The Miami Dolphins put up 70 points against the Denver Broncos. 70. I mean, at one point I think the score was like 53-14. It was bad. The Dolphins scored at least 2 touchdowns in each quarter. So that tells you how things were going. and the Dolphins just looked clean. The Broncos, I'm going to say this, and I could be wrong, but I'm starting to think the Broncos are tanking for Caleb or whoever the quarterback of the future is. I think Russell, I think we've seen this. This will be the last year Russell's there, unless some miraculous turnaround comes that way. I think this will be the last year Russell's there. That's just the vibe that's coming out. Peyton doesn't seem like he want him there. I mean, at least that's the vibe that's coming out through the media, and we could be wrong on that, but there's just something wrong there. The Broncos are terrible. My man Lamar Thomas said something I didn't realize, but they're the only winless team in the AFC. And so right now the Broncos have to figure something out. But guess who they play this week? They play the Bears. So unless these two tie, which which would not surprise me, one of these teams are going to get their first win of the year. Broncos at 31. 30, the Carolina Panthers. Carolina showed some heart against Seattle in their game, losing 37-27, but they showed a lot of heart in that contest. Andy Dalton came in and threw for 361 yards and 2 touchdowns. Adam Thielen had a great game. He had 11 receptions for 145 yards and a TD. I mean, look, I'm not saying let Andy Dalton start the rest of the year. And because we'll see how Bryce Young is going, and he needs to continue to grow and get his development on. But if you're the Panthers, you got to feel good about your backup quarterback situation because Dalton came in and looked good. I bet you the Jets would scream right now if they gave Andy Dalton as their starting quarterback. If I'm the Jets, I would even think about making that move. But hey, I digress. Panthers are at 30, but a very good 30. I think if that makes any sense. They played hard last week, just couldn't pull it off. At 29, the Minnesota Vikings. Now, this team probably the most disappointing of the 0-3 teams. The Vikings have played some tough matchups, though. I mean, they had the Bucks who were 2-0 up until this week, and they lost a tough one there. Then they played the defending NFC champions. Tough loss there. They battled and they lost by 6. And then they lose a 4-point matchup to the Chargers. So they're not playing slouches. They're just losing, and it's just not turning around. Now, y'all know how I feel about Minnesota. I'm gonna leave that out of it. But Kirk Cousins is having one heck of a year. I mean, if you wouldn't know about the record, but Kurt's leading the league in passing yards. He's leading the league in touchdown passes. The 9 touchdown passes, only 2 picks. I think he's got over 1,000 yards passing already. Kurt's having a really good year. The team's just not as a whole. So we'll see what happens there. But Minnesota's at 29. At 28, the New York Football Giants. They got beat up All right, so I'm back. A little bit of technical difficulty, but do apologize with that. So, with that being said, the Jets have struggled tremendously, and maybe they'll figure it out, maybe they won't. But right now, it doesn't look like they're going to figure it out. They've got a lot that they've got to kind of get into. So, we'll see if they can figure it out there. The Jets are at 27. 26, we've got the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, I thought they were going to win last week. I thought they might bounce back. They had a nice win against the Chargers, but it might have been fool's gold. But they ran into a really tough Cleveland Browns team. Eh, and I don't know. Is the Titans, I had them at 26 at the beginning of the season for a reason. And right now, I'm starting to still feel that way. There's nothing about this team that makes me scream other than their defense. Their defense is pretty solid, but it didn't look too hot the other day when they lost to the Browns 27-3. But even with that being said, we'll see how things go. The Titans are 26. So next we'll talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. So the Vegas Raiders, 1-2, tough loss on. Excuse me, not on Sunday, but no, yeah, I was right. On Sunday night, they had a tough loss to Pittsburgh, and it was a game where Devontae Adams had an absolutely phenomenal game. I mean, you just can't have three picks. I mean, if you're Jimmy Garoppolo, you just can't do that. And so I think that was the biggest thing, for this team and coming out of it. They struggled. They absolutely struggled overall. I had to do that over because I don't even know where to start at. I'm gonna have to go and cut this up. All right. Next, we'll talk about the Oakland Raiders. Next, we'll talk about the Vegas Raiders. So Vegas has been, one of those teams that's been interesting so far this season. Despite Devontae Adams going off, 13 receptions, 172 yards, and 2 TDs, it just wasn't enough. Garoppolo had 324 yards and 2 touchdowns, but he had 3 picks. And so this Raiders team is, to me, one of those teams that are going to be competitive at times, but they're going to struggle throughout the year. I don't think they're going to be as good as some people may have thought they could have been. I think it's going to be a disaster. I don't think we see Josh McDaniel there in Vegas after this season. At 24, we talked about them a little bit earlier. The New England Patriots, they get their first win as they defeated the New York Jets 15-10 to get their first win of the year. Zeke Elliott, 16 carries, 80 yards, not a bad day for Zeke. They've got to find a way to get him going and keep him going. And I think if they can figure that out, then I think it's going to be something. I think it's going to be something special there if they can get that going a little bit. The Patriots are going to be competitive all year. They have been competitive in every single game that they've been in so far, and they're going to be a team that you don't want to see on a weekly basis because you never know what you're going to get out of them, and not in a bad way because you don't know if it's going to be a grind out a game or do they just come in and then they get a win over you. So watch out for the Patriots. They're at 24 for now. At 23, and I'm proud of this 23. At 23, the Arizona Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals are they've been impressive the first 3 weeks. I mean, the first game against the Commanders, they lose 20-16, but they had the lead 16-10. They were winning that game. Gave up a touchdown on a field goal late to lose that one. Then they were up 28-7 over the Giants, and they end up losing that one 31-28. A tough loss for Arizona. Then they take on the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody in their third cousin said there's no way the Arizona Cardinals will win this game. The Arizona Cardinals were at home and they did their thing and they defeated the Dallas Cowboys 28-16. And Dak Prescott's pick at the end, he's getting blamed for uh, the Cowboys loss. But here's the deal: Arizona's just been playing really good football. I love what I've seen from Josh Dobbs. He deserves every bit of his flowers. Josh Dobbs has been absolutely amazing. So much love to Josh Dobbs. At 22, we got the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville, I don't know what happened, but they got mollywopped this week against the Houston Texans, who you see at 21. So kudos to the Houston Texans. They deserve to be exactly where they are because they worked really hard. They could have they fought hard with the Ravens in game one. They battled back a little bit against the Colts last week or week before last, and they played pretty good football. So D'Amico Ryan should be very happy, or at least proud of the team that he has right now. Jacksonville, Doug Peterson and the boys are going to have to figure something out real quick. If not, I don't know. This Jacksonville team that everybody thought could win the AFC South may not win the AFC South. So with that being said, that is the bottom: Bears, Broncos, Panthers, Vikings, Giants, Jets, Titans, Raiders, Patriots, Cardinals, Jaguars, and the Texans. So the bottom right now looking, intriguing. I think that one or two of those teams could creep into the outside looking in next week. But speaking of that, let's go ahead and get to the outside looking in. Outside looking in this week. So in the outside looking in this week, it gets a little bit more intriguing because some of those teams that were in the top 10 last week, not in the top 10 no more. And those teams include the Falcons, the Saints, the Bucks, and the Ravens. So 4 teams that were in the top 10 last week fell out this week. And some of them, maybe some of them not as warranted, but I felt like the teams that are in there, they're in the top 10 this week, definitely deserve to be in there. But I digress. At number 20, we got the Rams. The Rams, tough game on Monday night against the Bengals, and it just didn't happen. 19-16. To me, they just couldn't get certain aspects of the game going. Joe Burrow comes out there, who the Bengals are at 19. Joe Burrow comes out there and, playing pretty much on one leg. He's got the calf injury, but they fought hard. And Jamar Chase had 12 receptions for 141 yards. Mixon carried the day a little bit with 19 carries, 65 yards and a TD. But the biggest thing is the Bengals get their first win of the year. Now, they messed me up because I definitely picked the Rams to win this one. I thought the Rams have been playing at least decent enough football to sneak this one. If Burrow hadn't played, I know for sure they probably would have won. But he did play, and so the Bengals are at 19, and we've got the Rams at 20. At 18, we've got the Chargers. The Chargers get their first win. I made a mistake last week, so I want to apologize. I don't know how I mixed it up, but the Chargers should have been in the bottom last week. They should have been in the bottom last week, and I messed it up running around like a track star. I should have known better, but my apologies on that. They definitely should have been in the bottom last week. My man Corlin pointed that out, and he was 100% correct. They should have been in the bottom last week, but they made up for it. They won, so now they officially should be in the outside looking in at number 18. And, a nice win over the Vikings. They made me look bad because I definitely picked the Vikings to win that one with them being at home. Because as my man Lamont Thomas would say, the Chargers will charge. And this week they figured it out and they charged in the right direction. So the Chargers are at 18. At 17, the Commanders, a loss to Buffalo, and not just any type of loss. They got destroyed. And then being there on the field and watching Josh Allen work was a piece of art. If I had to be real honest with you, they just look good. It was like almost like stress free to an extent watching the Bills go up and down the field. The defense forced 9 sacks on the Sam Howell and 4 interceptions. And they left Sam in there the whole time, but it was a hard thing to watch. And it was definitely a lesson learned for Sam. But I think that it was a really hard goal for Washington. Now, this week they got the Eagles, so they're going to have to find a way to bounce back. If not, they'll be looking at 2-2 as they take on Chicago on Thursday night next week, which I will be at. So so we're going to make this work next week, but we'll get into that in a little while. Then we got the number 16 team, the New Orleans Saints. Now, New Orleans lost to the Packers, and I happy I am, but watching that game, New Orleans was dominating to an extent. I mean, it wasn't like dominating like maybe the score wise, but I felt like they were running all aspects of the game for a certain extent. But then, even with all that being said, you see, Jameis Winston come in for an injured Derek Carr, and they just couldn't get the mojo after that. But the Packers fought hard and they scored 18 unanswered points in the fourth to win the game. So Jordan Love, even with his little crossover move that he made to get into the end zone, a hard-fought victory for the Packers as they moved to 2-1. They're number 15 on the countdown. Saints are number 16. But a great effort by Jordan Love. And like I said, if you want a little bit more deep into that, you can check out Green and Go over everything from yesterday. At number 14, the Falcons. The Falcons lost to the Lions 20-6. And it just seems like they really couldn't get anything going. But I think the Lions didn't go full throttle, but they had a really good game. Jared Goff had 243 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. Gibbs had 17 carries for 80 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had 9 receptions for 102 yards. So, it wasn't the greatest game, but I think the Lions did what they needed to do to get their dub. And as you can see, they're in the top 10 this week. But the Falcons are at 14. At 13, the Tampa Bay Bucks losing their game on Monday night to the Philadelphia Eagles, 25-11. Another team that, played well in the first 2 weeks, but just couldn't get anything going against the defending NFC champions. So the Bucks right now at 13, but I think there's a good chance they could bounce back this week, but we'll see. At 12, we've got the Baltimore Ravens losing to the number 11 team, the Colts, and in overtime, 22-19. And I felt like, I don't know. It just was a weird day. If you follow our Pick'em League on the Legacy Maker Sports Network, we had 5 clean sweeps, and that a clean sweep is for every expert picked that team to win. Okay, every expert picked that team to win, and and so out of the 5 that we had like that, 3 of the teams lost: the Cowboys, the Ravens, and the Jaguars. So it was interesting, but that's the Ravens. I think that they're a team that they're going to lose a couple games throughout that you'd be like, maybe you shouldn't lose that one. But got to give the Colts credit. And Zach Moss, what a great day. Thank you for the help that you did on my fantasy. 30 carries, 122 yards. Great day for him. Minshew did good. 227 yards and a touchdown. Michael Pittman with 9 receptions and 77 yards. But, hey, the Colts did what they had to do. They got the win. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the outside looking in. Rams, Bengals, Chargers, Commanders, Saints, Packers, Falcons, Bucks, Ravens, and Colts. That is your outside looking in. All right, so outside looking in, like I said, 4 of those teams were in the top 10 last week. They took a step back this week. So now it's time to see who made it to the top 10. Let's get it. All right, so your top 10 teams, power ranking wise, heading into week 4 of the NFL season. At number 10, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, I really thought about putting them on the outside looking in. And, they lost to Arizona. A lot of people say they should probably think, they're right, they need to be up there. But Arizona has played well over the first 3 weeks. And yes, they were against teams that maybe not so hot per se in some people's eyes, but I will still give Dallas a little bit of the edge on there because of that defense. But they've got to figure some things out, and they need to figure them out quick. And that was a tough one. That should have been a Dallas Cowboys win on, at least on paper. It should have been a win on Sunday. But no, a tough and gritty Arizona team got the win. Dallas is at 10. At number 9, the Detroit Lions. We talked about how well they played against the Falcons. Did some really good things. They got a tough matchup tonight against the Green Bay Packers, a division rivalry. But the last 3 games that the Lions have taken on the Packers, they've won. So they got a 3-game winning streak over the Packers right now. Let's see if they will be able to keep that going tonight. The Lions are at 9. At number 8, we got the Seattle Seahawks. Now, the Seahawks played really well against the Lions. They beat the Lions last week, and then they get a nice win over the Panthers this week. Their loss came to the Rams in week 1. I think the Seahawks could be 3. At least I thought the Seahawks would be 3-0 potentially by this point, but they're in a good spot. They're at number 8. Geno Smith doesn't, he's been able to do it for another year, so he looks good so far. I like the Seahawks team, and we'll see what they do this week. I believe they are on Monday night this week, and I think they take on the Giants. And don't beat me up if I'm getting that wrong, but they should be fun to watch as we continue to go along. Number 7, the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland getting their win in week 1 against the Bengals. Very solid win. Then they beat up on a Titans team that was coming off a nice win over the Chargers last week. the Browns could be 3-0, but they couldn't pull things out against the number 6 team last week or week before last, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, Pittsburgh with a nice win on Sunday night against the Raiders. The Browns with a nice win against the Titans had them sitting at 7-6 in the power rankings. At number 5, the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, the Kansas City Chiefs were all the way down. Week 1, they were number 1. They dropped all the way to number 20 in week 2 and week 3. They were sitting right there on the cusp of getting back into the top 10. This week, they're back in the top 10 at number 5, and they demolished the Bears 41-10. And I think it was 41-0 at one point. And they were just cruising right along. Now, Mahomes did get a little nicked up in that one, but he seems to be okay. The Chiefs are at number 5. At number 4, the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo destroyed Washington, and I had a front row seat to it. It was a really rough experience for the Washington Commanders. Rough day for Sam Howell. Great day for Buffalo. Josh Allen seems to be getting his groove going. I even got to see him do the little finger roll in the end zone after a touchdown. So Buffalo is at number 4. At number 3, the Philadelphia Eagles, one of 3 undefeated teams left in the NFL. And it's funny, these 3 teams a couple years ago in the Trey Lance situation around, all of them were like switching draft picks and all that stuff around that time frame. But the Eagles, with a win over the Bucks, moved them to 3-0. I still have them in the top 3, well deserved, but they're still trying to iron some things out in Philadelphia. And when are they going to get AJ Brown going? Like, when is that going to happen? Yes, he had a pretty decent day on Monday, but I feel like they still can do more. AJ Brown is a special athlete. 9 receptions for 131 yards, though not too shabby, but they got to find ways to continue to get him rolling. DeAndre Swift with 16 carries and 130 yards, a great day for him. Hurts had a touchdown and 2 picks, but 277 yards. But the most important thing is they got a dub. They got the Commanders coming into town this week, so I'll be heading to Philly for that one. At number 2, the San Francisco 49ers. Yes, you see the Dolphins are the new number 1, but when you drop 70 points in a football game and destroy a team, no matter how bad or how good you think the team is, they deserve to be number 1. So that's why the Dolphins are number 1 this week over the 49ers. Now, the 49ers really didn't do anything technically to lose the number 1 spot, in my opinion. I think they still may be the better team if these 2 teams were to face each other. I still think that 49ers defense would definitely cause a lot of problems. But here's the thing, that Dolphins offense is spectacular. And they looked absolutely amazing. Tua, 4 touchdowns, 309 yards. Acne, I might probably say Kanakne. I'm not even going to try to destroy my man's name, but the young rookie running back from Miami had 18 carries and 203 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill had 9 receptions for 157 yards and a TD. Watch out for the Miami Dolphins. There it is. Top 10, Cowboys, Lions, Seahawks, Browns, Steelers, Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, 49ers, and your number 1 team this week, the Miami Dolphins. All right, so that was your top 10. And now we are going to go ahead and finish this bad boy up with the finale. Get yourself ready for tonight, and also get yourself, give you a little recap on players of the game and all that good stuff. Well, the players of the week, I should say, from last week. We'll give you all that right now. Let's go ahead and get in. Let's finish it up with the finale. All right, so with the finale, StreamYard's been messing with me this lately. Usually I could talk right away, but they've been muting me for like 3 seconds. Then they go into it, but I digress. So let's go ahead and go into the finale. First, our players of the week from last week, from week 3. First, Justin Herbert, 40 for 47, 405 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, and a 28-24 victory over Minnesota. That's why they paid him all the big bucks in the offseason. They got their quarterback in the future. They're feeling really good about that. But a nice first win of the season for the Chargers. But what a day for Justin Herbert. Then defensive player. And like I said, I was at this game. So defensive player, Terrell Bernard. Bernard had himself a really good game. He was all over the field for Buffalo. He had 7 tackles, 2 sacks, and an interception against Washington in a 37-3 win. And I had to give it to him. I thought about TJ Watt, but the more I thought about it, Bernard just had a really good day in helping this Buffalo team get their 2nd win of the year. Next, we go to our top 5 MVP candidates. after 3 weeks, still at the top. Tua at number 2, McCaffrey not changing there. Hill at 3. So those are my top 3 regardless right now. 2 Dolphins in there fighting for the spot. At number 4, TJ Watt entered the picture. I think he had a really good game the other day. He's had a really good season so far for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So he's rocking and rolling. We got Watt at number 4. At number 5, and yes, they are 0-3, but his numbers are great right now, and that's Kirk Cousins. So 1,000 yards passing. I think it's just him and Tua. He's got the most in that category. He's got 9 touchdowns and 2 picks. He's not playing bad football. They're just not winning football games. I know that may not make sense, but they're just not winning football games. The defense is just not showing up. So I got Tua, McCaffrey, Hill, Watt, and Cousins, but right now Tua being the MVP. Now, my record from last week, 29. My overall record is 29-19. Went 10-6 the week before. Went 8-8 last week. Rough week. There were some wins I just knew I was gonna get that I just didn't get. So that made me a little bit upset. I was a little bit upset about that. But 29-19. I'm currently in 3rd place in my division in the Legacy Maker NFL Pick'em League. But I'm not out of it. I'm about 3 games back from the overall leader, so I got to have a big week this week. I feel really good about it, though. Now, the first game that I picked for that one, which happens tonight, Thursday Night Football, I got the Packers winning 21-20 over the Lions. I think, they're at home. Jordan Love had a really good first home game. There were some times he missed. It was a little bit rough to watch, but I like the Packers pulling this one off and taking the division lead. Now, will this happen in Detroit? I don't know. And it's still a long season, but I think the Packers are on a good start. I have them winning this one 21-20 over the Lions. And then here are my picks for the rest of week 4. I got Packers, Eagles, Jaguars, Bills. That's right, the Bills over the Dolphins. I think that's going to be a little bit of a closer matchup. Those offenses get offense, and we can see 60 and 50-point game. Be crazy. The Broncos get their first win of the season over the Bears. And I got the Browns, the Texans, the Vikings, Rams, Bucks, Bengals, Chargers, Cowboys, 49ers, Chiefs, and Seahawks. Those are my winners for week 4. All right, so that is it, everybody. That is it for One-on-One this week, episode 108. Truly appreciate everybody tuning in for episode 108. Like to thank all the Bowie TV listeners for tuning in. Hope that you enjoyed the power rankings this week as we get ourselves ready for episode 109 next week. I'm not going to say it's going to be on location, but there's a chance that it might be on location next week since the Bears and the Commanders take on each other. But I'll figure that out beforehand. I might even have to record before I leave, but hate to have to do that, but that may be the case. Even with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for tuning in for another episode of One-on-One. We will see you all next week for episode 109 and week 5 of the NFL Power Rankings here on the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Once again, y'all make sure y'all check out all the great shows on here. On Bowie Television, as well as the Legacy Maker Sports Network. Until next time, thank you all for tuning in.
Legacy Maker, the All Sports Network.
Welcome to the one-on-one. When it comes to ratings, man, we number one. I get the truth, then I give them the scoop. If anybody got a question, I give them the